Seasonic's latest flagship power supply is here. Howdy guys, Ponchato here, and today we'll be taking a look at the Prime AirTouch 850 power supply from Seasonic. Thanks to Seasonic for sending this over for review, and let's get started. The Prime AirTouch was just released on June 25th of 2018, and as part of their Prime series is targeted at high-end enthusiast builds. It's an 850 watt power supply with an 80 plus gold efficiency rating, and it comes with fully modular cables. In terms of size, it's fairly typical for an ATX power supply at 170 millimeters long. One benefit of being a full-size power supply like this is that Seasonic can cram an 11-blade 135mm fan inside, whereas most typical power supplies only have a 120mm fan. Larger fans move more air with less noise, so this is a great benefit to have. The fan utilizes a fluid dynamic bearing, which is in the top tier for noise and reliability, and the AirTouch comes with a pretty interesting fan control scheme, which we'll go over in a bit. Because this is a Prime power supply and one of Seasonic's highest-end offerings, the AirTouch comes with an enormous 12-year warranty. Putting it in perspective, that means one purchase today would be covered until the year 2030. That's quite a while. The box is completely covered in a reflective coating, but otherwise follows Seasonic's usual design philosophy of pretty and informative. One edge has all the connectors listed along with their cable lengths, important for those with larger cases or curious about cable management, while the other edge shows the specifications and electrical ratings. The back of the box has more detailed information about the various features of the AirTouch, along with a graph of the fan control schemes you can select. Inside the box is, well, another box with only Seasonic's logo. Inside this box is all the good stuff. Right on top is a small bag with an informational pamphlet, a Prime case badge, and some Velcro and plastic zip ties. Below that, Seasonic included a $15 Netflix gift card, only valid in the US, and another pamphlet detailing the entire Prime series of power supplies. Next we have the wall power cable, case mounting screws, and then a woven pull string bag filled with all the modular cables. Below that is a super handy power supply tester, which I'm actually amazed isn't more common. The tester lets you turn on a power supply without a motherboard or anything else connected, which is very handy for troubleshooting. Finally, we get to the power supply itself. Seasonic wraps it in a quite fancy velvet bag, and here we have the Prime AirTouch. Side note, I'm a really big fan of their fan grille designs on the Prime series, and I think this red and black color scheme looks really sweet. Taking a look at the electrical ratings chart, we see something that I always appreciate from power supply manufacturers, especially Seasonic, who has a long history of doing it. The vast majority of power consumed by a computer comes from the 12-volt rail. It's the primary driver of both the CPU and GPU in any computer. Seasonic designed the AirTouch to deliver nearly 100% of its rated power on the 12-volt rail alone, 840 watts compared to the overall rating of 850. That's in addition to the power available on the 3.3 and 5-volt rails, which means that if your total expected load from your processor and graphics card or cards will be right up to the rated capacity, the AirTouch can handle it. On top of that, Seasonic has opted for a cable-free design, which means instead of cables connecting the various components inside the power supply, everything is connected through a copper plate. This reduces the chance of anything coming loose during manufacturing and shipping, and is part of the reason why Seasonic can offer a 12-year warranty. It's less likely to break. In terms of safety, the AirTouch comes with every circuit protection feature you need: overpower, overvoltage, undervoltage, short circuit protection, overcurrent, and overtemperature protection. That's what all the three-letter abbreviations like OPP, OVP, and UVP refer to when you're looking at a power supply specifications. On a final note of electrical specs, Seasonic achieves what they call micro-tolerance load regulation, which means output voltage is kept to within 0.5% of its target under load. This is important for system stability and really important for overclocking, because if the voltage going into various components like the CPU VRM falls out of alignment, it can push voltage regulators in other parts past what they're safely designed to handle and either crash the system if you're lucky or kill your parts. Tight tolerances, like on the AirTouch, make sure that doesn't happen. The AirTouch has a plethora of power connections on the back, and with the included cables gives you a huge amount of room for expansion. It has 4 4-pin CPU connectors, 6 6+2-pin PCIe connectors, enough SATA connectors for 10 hard drives or SSDs, 5 Molex connectors, and a floppy drive connector if you still have one of those for some reason. Only the 24-pin motherboard cable is sleeved, while the rest are flat black ribbons. As a minor note, the SATA connectors are all SATA 3.3 compliant, which means that they won't cause problems with hard drives that support the power disable feature, mostly used in business and server environments and not often a concern for home users, but with the AirTouch it won't be a problem at all. Before we get to the noise and power test results, I wanted to cover the hybrid 5-way fan control scheme. A button on the back cycles through 5 different fan curves and lights up to indicate what setting it's currently on: white, blue, green, yellow, or red. White is the silent mode, which allows the fan to completely stop below 40% load, ramps up to a low RPM between 40 and 80%, and spins up the fan heavily above 80% load. Blue, the default setting, keeps the fan running at a minimal RPM until about 60% load, at which point it will start to spin faster. Green keeps the fan at around 65% of its max speed until the power supply hits 80% of its capacity, at which point it spins up. Yellow sets the fan to 80%, and red sets it to 100. These settings are, as they should be, treated more as suggestions than absolute commands. If you have the AirTouch under a heavy load in a hot room and the components inside start to reach unsafe temperatures, it will spin up the fan to keep everything safe, regardless of what you have selected. Now that we've covered the fan control scheme, let's talk about results. My test setup for power supplies is a Ryzen 3 1200 overclocked to 4.1 GHz at 1.35 volts with 8 GB of DDR4 2400 memory and a stock GTX 1060 3GB. Idle results are taken with no programs running, load results are taken with Prime 95 and Unigen's Valley running stress tests, and power measurements are for the entire system as measured at the wall. Looking at the idle results, you can see the Prime AirTouch lives up to the Prime reputation. With the fan set to the silent or white setting, it doesn't need to spin up at all and therefore doesn't make any noise. Power consumption at idle really isn't much of a concern, but the AirTouch does come out ahead of every other power supply I've tested to date. Looking at the load results, you can probably guess that the fan didn't need to turn on here either. In terms of efficiency, the AirTouch comes out slightly ahead of the also 80 Plus Gold Focus and Focus Plus power supplies, but only by a few watts. This last chart shows the noise levels of the 5 fan speed settings. The fan is completely stopped at white, ramps up a good amount at blue, and then follows the predictable trend of louder as it spins faster. Personally, I don't think I'd find much use for the yellow or red settings because those noise levels would really only be suitable in a server room or if your computer were well separated from your workspace. But that's the beauty of the system. You get to choose how much airflow you want and how much noise you can tolerate. Now let's talk about the pros and cons. The AirTouch has a lot of pros, so I'll just try to cover the important bits. First, this is the most efficient power supply I've tested to date at both idle and under load. That bodes well for your power bill, heat output from your computer, and the noise level in your room. Second, the AirTouch has the longest warranty of any power supply I've reviewed, and as far as I know, 12 years is the longest warranty you can get on any consumer-level power supply. Third, this is the quietest power supply I've tested at idle and under load, and if you're a fan of quiet computers like me, that's a huge deal. Finally, I think this is one of the best looking power supplies on the market today. Seasonic's design for all the Prime fan grills looks good, but I really like this red and black color scheme. I like it enough to where I'd have the AirTouch fan side up in a window case, even if there's a vent for it to pull in air from underneath. Nobody's perfect, close as they may be, so let's talk about the cons, or con, really. My only major issue with this power supply is that the first selectable fan speed is quite a big jump in noise from the fan being off. If you leave it at the white or silent setting, it will slowly ramp up the fan speed when needed, but manually going to the blue setting ramps up the fan to around 900 RPM by my measurement. I think a lower speed, something like 500 or 600 RPM, would have been better for a typical build. At that speed, it would assist with case airflow, unlike the white setting, while still being effectively inaudible in most environments. In summary, if you're looking for a top-end power supply for a top-end build, Seasonic's Prime AirTouch 850 is an excellent choice. You get fantastic efficiency, a wide range of fan control, and a ridiculous 12-year warranty, on top of Seasonic's legendary quality. Extremely tight voltage regulation and an oversized 135mm fan both contribute to the list of reasons why the AirTouch might be the ultimate power supply of this generation. At $160, it's firmly planted in the enthusiast category, and for a high-end build, that's money well spent. Follow the link in the description to pick one up for yourself. If you want to get notified of new videos as soon as they're up, hit subscribe and click the bell icon to enable notifications. So guys, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And if you have any questions on the Prime AirTouch or these tests, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, I hope I helped, and I'll see you in the next video.